In the early 1990s, I was traveling through Central and South America for about 1.5 years, just backpacking around. And the other day I was telling Irene and some of the kids some stories. And I was relating one about the time that we went into the Amazon jungle for 5 days. So we thought we might like to share it with you. When you're watching this video, if you like what you see, please subscribe. Help us out, subscribe. Press like if you enjoy it, and also make a comment if you'd like. And there's a little bell there if you'd like some warning about different new messages that we put up for you to watch. Then please, this will give you a reminder. As I said, in the early 1990s, we were traveling through Central and South America. And I was in Cuenca, a little place in Ecuador, sitting in the hospedaje, the guest house, one afternoon. And a wiry little old Indian chap came in. And he came up to us. I was sitting there with my partner at the time, Fiona. And he said, "Look, I'm an Indian from the Amazon, and I'm a tour guide, taking people into the Amazon. But we have got very little work at the moment. Would you be interested in going in?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd be really interested." Fiona was fine with it. So we asked around the guest house, and there was 3 Austrian boys, young chaps, about 25, 28, something like that, who decided they'd come with us. But then if we're going to go into the Amazon, we thought, well, we've got to have a goal. What are we going to go in there for? So he said, well, look, the guide said, look, we can go down the Amazon, there's a nice little resort there, we can stay in the resort, you can come and stay in our village if you like, and then we can visit some various places along the Rio Napa it was. And I said to him, no. That's not the sort of thing I'm interested in at all. If we're going to go into the Amazon, we want to go into the Amazon and be in the Amazon. I'm not interested in going and staying in resorts. I said to him, why don't we go and look for tigre? And he said, oh, very hard to find. A tigre is a generic name for any sort of wild cat. Bobcat, panthers, anything like that. They all call them tigres. And he said, very, very hard to find. And I said, look, we don't really expect to find any. But if we don't go looking for them, how will we ever know? So he said, okay, let's do that. So the next day, he came and picked us up. But one interesting fact was, he didn't speak English at all. Fiona and I have been learning a bit of Spanish along the way. So we had to converse in our broken Spanish and the Austrian boy's English, which meant constant interpretation. And he only spoke Spanish and his native dialect, of course. So we arranged to meet him at a general store in the Rio Napa. So we went there the next morning, met him there the next morning, spent quite a bit of time picking up some stores for the next 5 days in the river, and then took a trip down the Amazon in this longboat that had one of these very, very long shafts on the propeller at the back, because sometimes the Amazon gets very, very shallow, so they can't have a deep set propeller. They have to be able to lift it out of the water if they want to get them over the sandbanks and things. So we took this, it was probably about 3-4 hours, 5 hours down the Rio Napa, passing the odd tiny little village. When I say tiny little village, really no more than about 2 houses and a couple of kids running around. And we got to his village. His village was really just a collection of family huts. There were 6 families living in the village, and the main building was the schoolhouse, which stood up on stilts, quite a lot higher than the other houses. And we were going to stay in the schoolhouse. That was where he put us. So it was the schoolhouse was decorated inside with newspaper clippings, which was quite and it was quite ironic because there was pictures there of Tom Cruise and Mel Gibson, and which made us wonder whether they had any idea whether who Tom Cruise or Mel Gibson was, because there was no TV, no radios down there. There was really nothing, you know. But so we spent the remainder of the afternoon there and that evening playing games. He pulled out this blowpipe with the little arrows about about 6 inches long, something like that. He put a lemon on a stick, and we all had to try and blow the dart and hit the lemon. Probably only from about sort of 3-4 meters away. The Austrian boys didn't get anywhere close to it. I didn't get anywhere close to it. The native guy hit it every time, and Fiona managed to hit it once, you know. But the boys never got anywhere near it. We were hopeless. We were going to be lost in the Amazon if we ever got in there. I think that the schoolhouse was built on stilts because as we were going down the river, some of the banks were very, very steep. So when the river floods, I think that the village actually got flooded. And so for safety purposes, they all used to climb up into the schoolhouse. So that was so the next day, he outfitted us and insisted that we wear gumboots. He gave us all gumboots because he said that we all have hiking boots, proper hiking boots, but he said it's just not good enough. Once you get in the jungle, it's very, very wet, etc. We shared the carrying of the foodstuffs. He had a rifle with him and some bows and arrows he took with us. And we got into 2 dugout canoes. The 3 Austrian boys were in one, Fiona, myself, and the guide were in the other. And we rowed some way down the river, and then we went up a small estuary. And he said he was taking us into his tribal land. And to his knowledge, nobody had been in this tribal land for 5 years or more. It was a special grant of land that was given to the tribe. And so it was supposed to be government protected, but to his knowledge, no one had been in there for 5 years. It was just owned by the land. When we were going up the tributary in this little dugout canoes, it was very obvious that nobody had been around for quite some time because there was trees fallen across the tributary. We had to get out of the canoes sometimes and carry them around the broken trees because they were completely blocking the tributary. And other times we managed to be able to drag them over the top of the trees. We went up there, I don't know, a few kilometers, I would think. It took quite a bit of time. And then we went starting to go through the jungle. If we wanted a drink, he said, "You thirsty?" He said, "Yeah." So he got his machete out and just chopped down these palm leaves. So we just drank straight from the palm leaves. The palm leaves were all full of water. No, not in the jungle. No buko, no bananas, no lychees or rambutans. No. This was wild jungle. It actually was not primary jungle. There's very little primary jungle left in that part of the world now, around Ecuador. We didn't actually cross into Brazil. We were still in Ecuador. Primary jungle means that it is like first degree jungle, where it's still got all the very, very old trees. Most of those old trees have been cut down and there was secondary growth growing. They were still very, very tall, but not the original, really old.
Yeah. What is the taste of the palm tree? Water?
Just like clean water. The beautiful clean water. Beautiful clean water. You wouldn't want to drink out of the Amazon, although we have done that in the past. That was another trip I'll tell you about sometime. But no, the water from the palm tree is beautiful, beautiful and clean. Walking through the jungle is an amazing experience because you know there's danger, but you've got a guide there who knows what he's doing. So you just put your trust in the guide and hope that he knows what he's doing. You know, he certainly seemed to know what he was doing, and but the sounds, you can hear the monkeys, you can hear the birds. Occasionally you can hear some sort of roaring in the distance, at a long distance. You could hear the dripping from the trees. It wasn't actually raining at this time, but there was plenty of water around. We were squelching through the mud at times and clambering across tiny little streams and things. It was also amazingly cold in the jungle. You would think it would be very, very hot, but actually it was very, very cold. Under the canopy of the trees, it was actually quite cold. Not so much when you were walking, because you were sweating and you were carrying your backpack, etc. But when you stopped, you immediately started to feel a little bit cold. We made camp that night. Okay. So, not being any accommodation and no one having been in the area for 5 years, camp that night consisted...
So you mean that nobody lived there?
Nobody lived in this area. It was all tribal land. Okay. So all we did was we found a little clearing, probably no bigger than really a normal lounge room, and he gave us a fishing line and showed us where the river was and said, you go down there and fish and see if you can catch some fish for dinner tonight, right? And he said, and he'll rig up somewhere to stay.
Okay.
So we started rigging up these just basically 4 poles, 4 palm fronds, which was a little above head height. Tied some rafters to it, got some palm fronds and put the palm fronds on top of the roof to keep out any rain, so the rain ran on. And then he built a little palm protection area around it, so if anything was going to come in tonight, it would stop them to a certain degree. Also because it rained every night, apparently, we were told, and it would stop the rain from splashing in. So after he'd finished all that, he came down to the river to see how many fish we'd caught, which was 0.
Nothing.
Zero. Everybody had tried.
You don't know how to fish.
Everybody had tried, but no. So he said, oh, hopeless. So what he did was he went to the grass and he ruffled through the grass and caught grasshoppers.
Oh, okay.
And he put grasshoppers on the line, threw it in while the grasshoppers were still alive. The grasshoppers skimmed across the top of the water, and the piranha came up, boom, grabbed them. Piranha and some of the catfish. So within like 3 or 4 minutes, 5 minutes at the most, he had like about half a dozen piranha and catfish there. We'd been fishing for maybe an hour and a half and caught absolutely nothing. It just shows if you know what you're doing, how you can actually survive.
Yes.
You know. Toilets were a small shovel and a tree. If you wanted to go and find a tree, you dug a pit, did what you wanted to do, and go to the toilet. He put all the fish in a pot, cooked them all up that night, and thankfully, Fiona being the only woman there, she was the honoured guest. So she got the heads, you see. Now I know Filipinos love to eat the heads, but in the Western world, we don't eat the heads of the fish too often, you see.
Some people, they love to eat head of the fish, but I don't.
You don't like it?
No.
Oh, okay then. Sometimes we have it here, and Junjun, always the first one to grab it, yeah.
Yeah,
So she was the honoured person to get the heads of the fish. Fortunately, she did get a little bit else as well, because she couldn't bring herself to eat much of the head. When we went to sleep that night, it was amazing. We just rolled out the sleeping bags. Fiona and I had a single mosquito net over the top of it. The boys had a much larger one. And you lie there at night and just listening to the sounds of the jungle. And the jungle comes much more alive at night than it does during the day. Okay? Yeah. The sounds are incredible. The smells, just the smell of the earth, the smell of the leaves, the smell of the decaying matter on the ground, the smell of the fish. Really, it's something that you're aware that these animals are here, and these animals and birds and things are making this noise, and you're aware that there's danger, but you're wrapped up in your sleeping bag under this mosquito net. Not that it's really going to do you much good, but it just felt natural. I don't know why, it just felt natural. In the morning, you feel connected. That's what it is. You just feel connected with nature. You know, you just sort of, it's like you're not a person in a jungle. You're actually just part of the jungle. That's it. You're just part of it. There. The next morning, we get up, and Fiona and one of the Austrian boys are fishing through the backpacks for looking for their toothbrush and toothpaste, etc. And this little snake comes slithering out from the backpack. Yeah. So I think it had actually taken haven underneath one of the backpacks, and fortunately they had their hands in the backpacks. So, and it came and I called out, "Snake!" You know. The guy came running over with a machete and whacked it on the head just with the flat of the machete. Poor old snake's like this, and he picked it up and he showed us. It was only about this long.
It's dangerous snake?
Well, he said he did tell me what the name of it was. I can't remember off the top of my head whether he said it was a crate or something else. But he said this type of snake had killed 6 people from his village in the last 12 months.
Okay.
He said it actually killed a witch doctor. The witch doctor lived for about 8 days. Most people live for a day or two. He said that there is an antidote for it, but it costs about $20, and you have to go into town, which is a long way away to get it, $20 American. And he said the local people just don't have $20. So if they get bitten, they die. There's nothing else to it.
It's like a rat snake, rattlesnake.
Not a rattlesnake. They don't have well, not that I'm aware of that they have rattlesnakes in there, but very poisonous. I think a crate is a type of viper. But it was only very small and very narrow. But actually, so I guess it was quite young. And I'm told that actually, if you get bitten, that young snakes will inject more venom in you than an older one, because the young snakes get scared more. You see, they're more frightened, so they inject more venom. The older ones don't need to. They're pretty more confident in themselves. So that was a little bit interesting. We had breakfast, and then we wandered through the bush for the day. We just spent the whole day walking through the bush. We did not find tigre, but we found many trees where the scratch marks had been, where they'd been sharpening their claws and climbing up the trees.
Oh, really?
But interestingly enough, I never realized at the time that they were saying, you never see a tigre, a panther. If they're actually going to attack you, the first time you see them is when they land on top of you, because they don't attack from the ground. What they do is they sit up in the trees and they jump on you. So the first thing you know is you've knocked to the ground and they're at your throat.
Oh.
Right? And they grab your throat and then you're gone. You know?
My God.
This is
not
what
like lion, like tiger?
Well, lions do similar sort of things. They try to grab the throat. But mostly lions are attacking much bigger animals like buffaloes and wildebeest and zebras and things like that.
But some of that kind of animals, they attack you like in the land, not in
They'll always come from the land, yeah. Even leopards tend to, in Africa, they'll attack from the land, generally. But I'm told that in a dense jungle like this, the first thing you know that there's a tigre there, they land on top of you. You know.
Why they call tigre?
It's just a generic name that they use for all type of wild cats. You know, no matter what they are, pumas or leopards or whatever they are.
Even lion and tiger?
Well, they don't have them there. They don't have them in South America. No, they're
Why?
African Indian. Well, because maybe they when the land separated from geologically many thousands of years ago.
So the tiger and the lion were separated also.
You have South America, we'll take Africa.
Yeah.
So we saw plenty of places that they'd been. So we just spent the day wandering through the jungle. He was teaching us all about the trees and the ones that are poisonous, the one you need to be careful of, the ones they use for all the different medicines and things like that they manufacture there. Look, we've been running for about 20 minutes now, close to 20 minutes, and there's still quite a lot to tell.
Yeah.
So I think what we might do is to actually break this story into two and continue it in a moment, okay, as a second part. If you like what you've heard up till now, please press subscribe, press like, tell us what you like or didn't like about it, and ring the bell and you'll hear more about it. We'll put a connection through to part 2.
Yeah.
Part 2 is coming up soon from Irene and Jeff.